Okay, I believe we're recording. Hi there, Colin, aka the Tone Wizard. Welcome to Ween Talk, episode 25. As of yet, untitled, but I will title it right now. Guest number, can't even remember how many, but I've got Will from the Ween Evan podcast joining me. Will, how's it going, man?
It is going wonderfully. I'm in a wintry mix of New York City, and I just had a baby, and I'm grateful for a little break to talk about Ween.
Oh, okay, then I'll drag this out. So that'll work well.
If we can make this go for like 4 hours, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
Yes, I'll have a full beard by the time that's done.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, thank you for coming on first and foremost. And just for people watching, Will does have a show. I believe it's on YouTube. It's part of the Osiris entertainment sort of network, which
So so Osiris is the podcast network. They do a lot of like fish podcasts, and they do
yep,
some music and movie podcasts, and we are their token Ween podcast.
nice.
We've done like, I think it's like 35 episodes since December 2017.
Yep.
And we took a big hit when like COVID started,
Yeah.
because the whole show is 4 comedians, and it's 3 comedians trying to convince our other friend to
Yep.
like the band Ween.
Ooh.
And so we would all just get in a room together, sit around a table, and force this guy, Evan, Ween Evan,
Yep.
to listen to Ween, and we'd get his on the spot input on the band and on the music. And it was a tough fight, and eventually he came around, sort of. Like, he
Yeah.
didn't fully come around, because it turns out he has trouble with rock and roll.
He has
So
with
therefore,
with rock and roll on a whole,
yeah, as a art form, he has
as an
trouble.
art form. What's
Yeah,
I don't want to get too, well, why not? But what's the trouble with rock and roll?
he enjoys what he referred to as beautiful music,
Oh, like, are we talking
and
Mozart or Bach or?
we it just has to be beautiful. I know he likes Michael McDonald, and I know he loves Prince,
Okay,
and that apparently is beautiful music.
yeah.
But Ween is just, I think, just the Brown is
Mm,
just is not his style. And
yeah,
it's the three of us, like the four of us, we all love the same shit except Ween. So we had to make him
yeah,
listen. And he's just really, really fucking funny.
yeah. Has he been a regular part of it, or does he only come on every once in a while? I've
He
heard
was
episodes, but
Yeah, he was a major part. He's the titular character. So he
yeah,
was there for the first 20 or so episodes.
yeah,
And then our first season ended with us kind of opening for Ween
yeah.
at what the heck was the name? The Capitol Theater in Port Chester, New York.
Right on.
And we were on the small stage inside right before they went on, and we
Okay,
did a live podcast, and that was Evan's first time seeing the band, and it was just a great time. And that whole show is available on YouTube. And then during COVID, we tried to do like a weekly show on YouTube, so you can get all those on YouTube.
yeah,
But all the old episodes are, Spotify, Stitcher,
sure.
iTunes, etc.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, if you want to check out this stuff, just in YouTube or Spotify or whatever, just type in Ween Evan, and you should be able to find it easily enough.
Yep, it's a yellow logo with a purple boognish.
Yeah, without going too far off topic, actually, I kind of got into the Osiris network there on YouTube, and I watched a really cool thing just yesterday. I think it came out with Bob Weir and Paul Stamets. And Paul Stamets is, like, I think he's either living here in Canada, actually, kind of near me up on the West Coast, up in the islands, or he's emigrated here. Either way, he's a mushroom expert, and he's been talking about all that development that's going on right now. You should check that out as well. I'm going to put a link to that, and I'll send the link to you because it was cool. And honestly, the last 10 minutes of that was really fucking cool without giving anything away.
Like, are we talking magic mushrooms?
Yeah, well, yeah, they're talking about magic mushrooms. It's a gray area right now because the official doctrine from any official company is we're developing them for for use in therapeutic purposes for people with sort of mental or chemical unbalances.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, I mean, I think Paul Stamets, if you look into his background, he has a lot of experience with the psychedelic side of stuff. But without giving too much away, at the end of it, and I don't want to get too much into this, but I just found it yesterday. I thought it was cool. At the end of it, he said said that magic mushrooms have developed in the debris of sort of human activity. So you don't find them just randomly, oftentimes growing out in the forest on a fallen log or whatever. A lot of the times you see them where humans have hewed into wood, or where we've created our sort of natural debris. And then historically, he was kind of alluding to the fact that our production of music and rhythm and bass and stuff like that stimulates the growth of those mushrooms. So I'm not really that into that stuff. I actually, like, as a joke, I invested in a company that's developing it a couple of months back, and now, like,
now you're a millionaire.
Oh no, I've made $13. I'll be honest with you, and that's if I cash out today. I could walk away
Yeah.
with that, and that's Canadian too. So we're talking after the trading fee, we're looking at $4 here. But but I don't know. And I think it's just probably the Google algorithm now. It just sees that I've been doing research on that, and it's all popping up. But I just thought that was funny because it's also related to your your channel on Osiris. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. How'd you get involved with that company?
So our producer Mikey is like a huge fish guy.
Yeah.
Like he's one of these people that has seen 400 something shows. And Paul, who's also on a show, has seen like 200 something shows, and he kind of dropped off of fish, but Mikey's still diehard into the world.
Yeah.
And he does a couple other podcasts for them. And we started this podcast, I mean, basically as a lark. We're all comedians in New York City, and like, wouldn't it be funny if we force Evan to listen to Wean? Like literally put him in a chair, put a blindfold on him, force him to listen to, Fat Lenny, and then get his response to it. Like he's going to say something funny because he's funny.
Yeah. I mean, that can't be any worse than sitting through an open mic night on a regular basis.
No. Right? And the more we thought about it, it's like, as a Wean fan, I can almost guarantee you that at some point you have tried to get a non-Wean fan to like the band. And that seems to be the rite of passage. I know my first Wean show, I brought my Wean friend bailed on me. And so I had to find a last minute replacement. It was my buddy Dennis. And I took him to go see Wean, and we walked out of there, and he's like, I didn't really like it. Yeah. And to me, it blew my mind. It was New Year's Eve, 98, 99 in New York City. They, when the ball dropped, they played Prince's 1999, Sound of Urchin opened. It was like the best show. Yeah. And this guy was just like, it was all right.
I think every Wean fan can relate to that experience, and it can go the other way too, because I think the other side of that coin is that's how a lot of us get into Wean, by somebody just dropping a little tidbit or whatever. I think I've said it before on my channel. My buddy gave me a mix CD, and I listened to it. I just flipped through. I thought it was like 20 different bands. I was like, it just said Wean scribbled on it, and he didn't really give me any context for it. And like, the song that I actually liked was a song called Western Skies, which was falsely attributed to Wean, and it's by a band called the Vintage Chimps. But after that, the one song that I found, I think it was Even If You Don't, that really hooked me in. So it can go either way though, because like I remember, I'd be driving around in my car and trying to show a buddy a song, and I show it to them, and I think it's just the greatest thing ever, and they're just like, what the fuck is this spinal meningitis shit?
Yeah, that's a rough one to start somebody out.
Yeah. Just if you think somebody has a sense of humor or whatever, you're like, check out this AIDS song, and it can go the wrong fucking way.
Well, so a lot of us, like on our show, it's like we knew Evan loved Prince, so we fed him like ambrosia parsley like right away. And we knew that we had like LMLYP in our back pocket, and like we knew that we had like the Wean funky songs that he would like. And then he's like, why would I listen to this when I could just listen to Prince? And it's like, fuck.
The Prince thing, I have to admit, it wasn't as obvious to me, because I think like with the ambrosia parsley, that's on the Caesar demos. Is that right? Is that right?
That's either on Caesar or it's on Long Beach Island tapes. I forget which one.
In either way, it's not something that would be readily available. Like it's I mean, that's another thing about Wean is like, I think like 12 years into listening to them now, I'm still finding shit I've never heard before.
Oh yeah, catalog runs deep.
Yeah, but even the Prince influence, as I'm not really that into Prince. It's never been that obvious to me until it was kind of pointed out. Some stuff I'd heard. So yeah, and I'm not into Prince, and I might try to get into Prince, but to be honest, I've tried before, and it's not really happened. So I'm still waiting to see what he's got in that vault. We'll see what that yields, man. Yeah, I mean, on that note, what do you think the odds are of us getting a new Ween album are? Because when they first reunited, I was thinking, oh, this is fucking perfect. They've been off doing their own thing. Things are gonna look fresh. And then now with the pandemic as well, I'm like, okay, well, they've had some time to get new stuff together. What do you think the odds are of that?
I don't know. I think they no longer live near each other.
Okay.
You know, Diener's in Jersey and Jeaner is, I think he's in Seattle,
Yeah.
is where he lives. So it's like, when they were younger and they had, no families, no kids, they would be able to just kind of sit around and write and play all day. So I think if there's new material, it's going to be very like, these are the Gene songs and these are the Dean songs.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that they're writing during this time.
Yeah.
But as a creative person, I've been finding it very hard to like create anything during this. I've just had just like crippling anxiety for the last 11 months.
Yeah.
I usually have big hair, but
Yep.
I shave my head and just because it's the only thing I can control in my life.
Oh, I wish that I could say the same, but
Oh, there you go.
I'm just legit bald. So,
Yeah.
and that's like
Me too. Me too.
That's also why I wear a hat, because otherwise it's like this fucking Destro thing going on here. That's
Oh my God! It's like I'm looking in a mirror.
yeah, man. Yeah, you know what? It's funny. A lot of the oh shit. There's a common thread amongst us Ween fans: beards and baldness. I think that's got something to do with the age as well. But yeah.
And how's your belly looking? Is the belly flat?
No comment. No comment.
Yeah.
No. The belly actually. Here's a backstory that's of little interest to anybody. I'm going to tell it anyways. I was supposed to get married in Mexico in November of last year, but obviously the circumstances prevented that from happening. So at the beginning of 2019, I resolved myself to get into shape, and it was actually going very well. I was looking better than I'd looked in years, and then I think our gym shut down that I was going to about a block away, and then some bad weather kicked in, and then I started stockpiling alcohol because I thought I'm not going out sober, right? And all of that equated into a lot of lower torso growth, is what I'll say.
Mm.
So to answer your question, yeah, I'm overweight now.
Yeah. So you sound like you're a man of a certain age, white dude.
Yep.
Are you 40?
Yeah.
Are you pushing 40?
No, I'm 36. So
okay, so,
yeah,
closer to 40.
Yeah.
So that is the demographic. So
yeah,
checked off all the boxes.
Well, dude, actually, if you look at I've been looking at the demographic of my YouTube channel, and it's fucking hilarious. It's literally like my wife's joking around. She's like, it's literally just you. You're just like you're talking to yourself into a camera and putting it online, and other versions of you are watching. And I'm like, well, that's good. I'd be kind of worried if it was a different demographic. But yeah, no, man, it's been a lot of fun being on YouTube. I do have to say, and because like I get to talk to people such as yourself. I've talked to a guy from Portland about fish. I had a panel on with a guy from New York, guy from out my way. I talked to another guy in Colorado. All good people and all with interesting insight onto the topic. So yeah.
And I got to say, I've been checking in on your show. Like, I haven't religiously watched every episode, but I remember when it first came out.
This interview's over.
And then I watched a couple like a few weeks later, and then a few weeks later, and you're getting better and better at it, man. Good work.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. That's the goal. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know where it's going, but it's been a lot of fun so far. So I'm going to keep her going. I did want to ask you about one episode of your show that immediately caught my eye when I went on to the channel, and that was that you had the Dr. Dog drummer on one of your episodes.
Yeah, Eric Slick.
Yeah, and he's a newer drummer, I guess, and he's a younger sort of guy. But I really enjoyed it. I listened to the whole way through. And who's the other guy on the channel? That wasn't Evan, was it?
No, that was Paul. So it's me, Katie Hartman, and Paul Gakowski. We're the three hosts, and Evan is basically the villain of the show. He's the heel, and he plays it very well. But so for during COVID, we've been doing our best to kind of the game of getting Evan to like the band kind of ended, and we tried it with some other people, but it's tough when you can't get around the table. So we've been interviewing some people, and we got Eric Slick. A buddy of mine is in, what the hell's the name of that guy's band? They toured with Dr. Dog, Shaky Graves. He's the bass player for, Yeah,
That's
my buddy
always
John.
that's always in my my Spotify like recommendation kind of list or whatever. I haven't really gotten
He's
into it.
good.
I've seen videos of him just playing like with a suitcase drum and
Oh,
guitar, and like through one of those shitty little honeytone amps and
yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah.
And I do like it. I haven't really gotten into that, but getting back to the Dr. Dog thing, man, I'm a massive fucking Dr. Dog fan, and I found them by accident. I found they had a song. I can't remember the name of the song is, but the video is just like a chicken puppet
Okay.
dance. It's called "Oh No" is the song, and I think it was on one of their earlier sort of records. But I found that, and I just listened to it all the time. And then, like a few years later, they put out a new album. I think "We All Belong" was the name of the album. I think, or maybe it was the Fate tour or whatever. But they came, and I fucking love that band, man. So I'm jealous of
Yeah,
that
I
era.
think I think Eric came on just after Fate. I
Yeah,
think their drummer left. And Eric is kind of like a musical genius. He's like one of these guys, he could play every instrument. He's got like perfect pitch and and he's a smart and personable guy. And he was almost the Ween drummer, but he
ooh,
was just a tad too young and a tad too maybe green.
okay,
And then Claude was going to quit, and then Claude decided to stick around,
yeah.
thankfully.
And
So yeah,
Claude's a fucking monster, man. Like
oh,
I try to we'll getting
genius.
back onto the Ween thing. I mean, if you don't know who Dr. Dog is, check out Dr. Dog, man. Maybe I'll post a link to that dancing chicken video because it is funny. But Claude, man, I'm trying to tell my drummer that I play with now it's a totally non-Ween related. I wanted to purposely start a new project with no threads of connection to all my other influences or whatever. But I'm trying to tell my drummer now how good he is and how fucking effortless it is, man. How he just chews through the shit. He's so fucking good.
Yeah, I mean, he's been playing with them now 20, 25 years. I
Yep.
mean, he is the rhythm of that band,
Yep.
and it's. I mean, they're live. I've had the privilege to see the live shows get better because the first show was 90, 98, 99,
98,
and
99.
they really hit their stride live in like the early 2000s
Yep.
is when that band got like super tight.
Hmm.
And it's been like one of the things that makes me the happiest in the world
I
is to be able to go see a Ween show.
obviously probably everybody watching this is a Ween fan, but that as in terms of a live act and the dynamics of the material and the theatrical sort of side of it is what really brings me into it because you can have a song like you can have one of the country songs, for example, like Powder Blue or something like that, which is pretty ridiculous. And then you can go from
Yeah,
that level to Buckingham Green. And I mean,
yeah.
I was lucky enough to be at the Nashville run a couple of years ago.
Oh,
And so, they were playing with the Nashville band there. And I can't remember what night it was, but I think they did Buckingham Green and and like the Nashville guy at the piano. I may have got my signals crossed because I was a little drunk, I admit, but there was one of those songs that was just so epic, and the Nashville guy on the piano just stood up and put his hands in his pockets and was just
yeah,
like kind of standing on the stage. But it wasn't like a bad thing or whatever. But it was like there's so much fucking range to Ween, and going to the
yeah.
show I think is really where it's at. I've dragged my wife now to go see them a couple of times, and she was not into it, but there's a couple of songs that she really likes. Like she really likes singing the background portions to Tried and True. Like she can always hit the at the
Uh-huh.
dawn I woke,
Don't I woke, I wasn't of you. My wife
yeah,
loves Gabrielle,
yeah,
like Die Hard, and I took her. The last shows they did were February 14th and 15th last year in New York,
yeah.
and I took my wife to her first Ween show uh, on Valentine's Day, and it was great. She knew way more. I play a lot of Ween
Yeah,
in the car, especially with the podcast and kind of like prepping.
yeah,
For every episode, you listen to these songs 1,000 times, and it's usually in the car at home. And we live together and we drive together, so she has heard way too many. She's got her least favorite songs, but
yeah.
she definitely
What
has
are
a
the what are
whole
the
bunch of favorite.
what would the
She
least
doesn't.
favorite?
It's why they want to see my spine, mommy.
Yeah,
Why they want to. It's just
yeah,
like a little kid begging
yeah,
for its life, and
yeah.
yeah, that doesn't go over too well.
No, no. I have to say, there's definitely ones that my lady's not too keen on, but What did you think of the solo stuff that came out? I'm going to take a hard right turn here. The solo stuff
Sure.
that came out during the hiatus, because I haven't really talked a lot about that, but the Diener stuff I think has been great, and I think he's been playing a lot of the instruments on those all by himself. You can definitely tell it's not Claude drumming on some of those songs,
Yeah.
but also the Freeman album I thought was fucking fantastic, and that's kind of why
I think it's, you know, to hear them separately, and to hear them make solo records, you could really appreciate which, like what each one brings to the band.
Yep.
And it forces you to make the decision: are you a Jeaner person or are you a Diener person?
Yep.
And I realized, like for me personally, I am a Jeaner in the streets and a Diener in the sheets, and like that's what I like. I like, you know, when I'm getting down and dirty, I like that rock and roll. And when I'm out and about, I like, you know, the poppy, lovely poetry of Jeaner. And I like the band together because they are able to mix those things
where
together.
that, like the axis point, where that the inflection point is a term I only learned when I had a wound on my inside cheek and I went to the dentist. But the fucking inflection point for me, a perfect one, is the Argus. You've got a beautiful song, and then you've got all the elements of Diener, and I think they corral and curtail each other's kind of like incongruities. If I'm using too many big words there, I feel like
You're 100% right.
yeah, okay, yeah, good. They smooth each other's kind of harsh parts out, and that's why they work so well. But fuck,
I mean, the Argus is my favorite Ween song. It's like the epitome of everything
yep,
that is Ween. And if you want, listen to episode 10 of the podcast, where we thought we'd have Evan in the bag and we were going to give him the Argus as a reward for loving
yep.
the band, and he wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
So we like pulled out all the big guns at episode 10.
Yeah.
So that's a good one to listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some highlights from their solo stuff for me that I kind of look at, that you talk about being a Diener and the she's kind of thing, is the I think it's called Rock and Roll Star, off of his, I don't know if that's what it's called actually, but it's I'm a bad motherfucker and I don't take shit. I spend my last $20 on a freebase. Yeah, fuck, I love that fucking song. That, to me, that is definitely Diener for sure.
I mean, one of my favorite Ween songs is also Sucking the Blood from the Devil's Dick, which is just like straight up thrash punk. It was on Craters of the Sack.
Best fucking song.
Yeah.
Like the titles of the fucking.
Yeah.
How can you not get into Ween?
And I also,
it's just a close up shot of his sack too on the.
yeah, of Diener's sack. Yeah. Thank you.
That is his sack. That's confirmed.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember when that dropped on the internet in like 2000. I remember having dial up and waiting for that to finish downloading. And I mean, yeah, and then there it is, and it was, you know, that's a great fucking little record. I personally, I would take the Freeman album over the two Diener solo records.
Yeah.
I'd probably, if I had to put them in an order, I'd put Freeman number 1, Diener 1, Diener 2, and then the what was the Marvelous Clouds in fourth, as far as the solo records.
Yeah, I think Freeman, this is just my speculation, but I think around the time when he did the Marvelous Clouds thing, and then he also did the Billy Joel stuff or whatever, I think he was kind of coming back into the fold there, and that kind of culminated nicely with the Freeman album, which I think is, in my opinion, some of the songs on there are as good as anything that Ween ever did. And I was lucky enough to be able to see that tour. I went down to Seattle, and I dragged my wife, who wasn't my wife at the time, down there, and she was completely on board with it, because it was a small ass venue. Like, you know, if you were inclined to do so, you could go up and poke them if you were that kind of person. But the band was fucking amazing.
Yeah, we saw. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, the kid with the long hair on the keys. We saw the opening show of that tour. It was at the Mercury Lounge in New York. Yep. It was great. And then we saw the Billy Joel tour. It was pretty. I took my wife to the Billy Joel one, and then I realized she does not like Billy Joel at all. Good. So it was like, I thought that would be like a good first like jump into. But yeah. So but the Freeman record, it's like he wasn't writing songs for a while, and I think when that record, it's like all these songs just poured out of him, and they were, I mean, there's some just great songs.
Yeah.
on I mean, Playing My Guitar Like a Man,
Yeah.
which is about a thing that Diener said
Yeah.
and that he heard, and that song's about Diener,
Yeah.
is like
Wow.
great. I mean, just the stored the what's it in Covert Discretion
Yeah.
is a fucking what like an inside baseball Ween song.
Yeah.
So I think Diener goes a little deeper, and Diener just kind of stays on the surface and will rock you hard on the surface. But I love like the song Gary. I like the Almond
Oh yeah.
Almond Sunrise. I like the instrumentals on the Diener record.
Yeah.
Um, I do not like Exercise Man. I can't get down with Exercise
You
Man.
know what? I couldn't get down with the music video, but I can like I'm out here in Vancouver and I drive a lot for my job and having been fucking stuck behind the exercise man
Yeah,
on like a side road or whatever for
yeah.
fucking 15 minutes because the guy doesn't want to move to the gravel shoulder so you can fucking get by him. I can relate to that. It's like, yeah, he'll die at 45 of a heart attack or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like, yeah, as a guy who stopped exercising, I want to believe that that's a great song. So yeah,
And
but
that Diener tour was great too. I got to see that one on. They were on a boat in Manhattan, and the
uh,
boat just sailed around the Statue of Liberty, and they were just rocking in like the gut of this boat. And I lost a lot of hearing at that show
yeah,
because my ears were ringing for like 5 days. Great show, great
yeah.
show.
Yeah, I will say after the reunion night, one of the reunion, I went down to Colorado for that, and I was side stage on the Diener side, and his guitar was fucking loud, and I don't think that it's ever not fucking loud. So
Yeah,
I can definitely relate to that, man. So you just another right turn here. So you're in the comedy scene out in New York. Is that correct? You said that.
yeah. What was the comedy scene?
Yeah.
We just got word that the theater that I met all the other people at, and that I've been calling home for the last 15 years, just closed
Yep.
yesterday. They just
Uh,
announced that it closed. So that's rough. But yeah,
are
we're
you
in
in
the
the
comedy scene in New York.
stand up side of things or?
I did stand up for a year, um, and then I'm the thing I learned about stand up. So this was 2001, 2002. I was like a 21-year-old kid, and I wanted to do comedy in New York. So I started doing stand up. I did it for a year, and it was very much you against the audience, like comedically. It's like if this audience doesn't like me, fuck them. And I'm very much a person who loves the audience, and I'm
Yeah.
grateful for. I'm like a play with others kind of person.
Sure.
So I gravitated more to like the sketch comedy and improv comedy world,
Cool.
and that was great. And I got lost in it for like 15 years. Became an actor, uh, do a bunch of commercials, constantly audition for movies and TV shows that I don't get.
Yeah.
But life of a New York City actor
I hear you.
and comedian. Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that as well because I don't think I've ever said this on my channel before, but I'm actually a dropout of the Humber School of Comedy in Ontario. I went there, did a year there, and I did stand up for a number of years. But the most recent thing that I was doing in that sort of vein was I do musical comedy, right? So, which is a polarizing kind of thing because either people say they hate it before they've even seen it, or they actually hate it, or they're okay with it. So that's kind of my
Well,
background there.
it depends on the musical comedy. Like, I mean, are
Yeah,
you doing Tenacious D, Fly to Concords? That's great.
yeah,
I mean, Ween for me is one of my biggest comedy influences. Like, if you ask
yeah,
me what my comedy influences are, Ween is on that
yeah,
list. Along with Mad Magazine and Mr. Show and Saturday Night Live in the '90s. Like, those are like what made me into the comedic voice that I am,
yeah.
for sure. What kind of musical comedy were you doing? Like
I,
guitar
I
based
was
or
I
like
was doing guitar
musicals?
based. I was doing guitar based, but on the idea of Ween, like obviously I'm big into Ween, but Ween borders on the you need the whole picture of Ween to really sort of kind of get the comedy a little bit. Like some of the songs are obviously funny, but the music is crafted so well that I think for some people it doesn't come across as being lighthearted, right? Like it's
Mm.
delivered with such sincerity and quality that I think people people sometimes can't laugh or whatever, if you know what I mean. So I found it always hard to kind of border between there, if with the stuff being maybe a little too sincere. If I found if I put a little too much time into the music, then it kind of perverted the comedy side of thing. But
Mhm.
if it was just a dick fart sort of song, then that was almost, I felt kind of stupid sort of performing that. But I was lucky to have a good run. I kind of stopped doing it in the last couple of years to just do music again, because I just love doing music. And I did the last kind of big show that I did was at the JFL Northwest out here, but that's fucking
Oh,
gone.
nice.
So I was
Yeah.
hoping to weasel my way in there again, but it's gone now. But yeah, I got stuff. Maybe I'll post a link to some of that stuff in the description of this video. But yeah.
Well, the thing with Ween and comedy, it's like I wouldn't say that they're a funny band
Yep.
at all, but there is like this thing that Jeter does is that he sings, I think, from characters. Like
Oh yeah.
he's got these characters inside him, and I know just from years of doing improv, it's like if you have this one voice that you could latch on, if you have this one whatever like physical thing that you can latch on, you can
Yep.
kind of like build and bloom like a character from it. And I think he does that really well. Whether and like, I mean, just like like the faux Mexican accents
Or
of like
there
Buenos
were
Tardes.
beverages.
Yeah, and like it's once you realize that, oh, I can say tricolored pastas.
Yeah.
Like there are 1,000 other
Yeah.
great words that sound hilarious coming from that
Yep.
POV, and like it's something that Jeter does so well. And I'm curious if he's even like conscious of it. Like I feel like it just pours out of him. Like "Slow Down Boy" is like
Yeah.
such a good song, and it would fool anyone to think it's like a Smith's Cure song. Like it
Yep.
would fit so well in like an '80s new wave playlist
Yeah.
if you
Where do you,
didn't know any better.
that's actually an important thing. There is the 80s new wave sort of influence on Jeter, which you can definitely hear on the Freeman kind of adult contemporary vibe, and he's obviously into that stuff. But where do you sit on the Smiths personally?
I am not a fan of the Smiths. If it's on, I mean, what's that big song? What's that you say?
Punctured bicycle. That one.
Yeah, like no, thank you. Give
Yeah.
me, give me Talking Heads.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me a little Devo. Give me, like, I want some like some guitar and like some crunch. Though, give me also Hall and Oates and Tears for Fears. Like
Yeah.
I don't mind,
See, I
like
can go
super poppy.
I can go the Smiths route, but I can't do the Tears for Fears and the Hall and Oates stuff,
Oh,
man.
so
Even
you
though
like the more emo-ish
that being
kind of.
said, though, I'm a big Toronto Maple Leafs fan, and their goal song is the Hall and Oates song. It's "You Make My Dreams Come True" or whatever that song is. Yeah, so
That's
that's
poppy gold, man.
yeah, no, that's
That's
about
soul.
that's
I mean,
about as
it's
far as
rock
I
and
can go.
soul. That's
No,
Freedom
no,
of '76.
I'm changing the conversation before it goes to a place I can't handle. No, but getting back to maybe where we first started out, the Future of Wean, man. What do you see them popping out an album soon?
I
Sooner?
think there will be a Shinola 2
Yeah,
and probably a Shinola 3 and 4 before there is a new Ween record.
yeah,
And I think like we've been trying very hard for the last 2 years on our podcast we've been doing interviews. So we've been interviewing Eric Slick from Dr. Dog. We interviewed Ben Vaughn, who produced 12 Golden Country Greats. We interviewed Tomato from Sound of Urchin. And we have a couple more big interviews coming. So we're getting the kind of backstory, and it seems the vibe is that they're not there at the writing stage yet.
yeah,
And I think they have so much in the back catalog that we'll see some Shinolas before we see some new stuff. Or maybe we'll just see new solo records, because that's probably, I bet you, I know for a fact that Diener has tracks that he's
yeah,
working on,
yeah,
because Eric Slick played drums on some tracks that Diener was working on. So I know he's been doing stuff over this, pandemic. I don't know if Jeter's been doing anything. I know he's with his family in Seattle, and then that's about it.
yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully we can see some new shit. And
I would love it.
I also ask everybody who comes on. I think we may have tipped in it before, but how'd you get into Ween? How'd that happen?
I first saw Push Little Daisies on Beavis and Butthead when I was a
Okay.
kid.
Yeah.
And then I went camping that summer, and my fake cousin Jackie brought like a bunch of like alt rock CDs, and one of them was Chocolate and Cheese, and we listened to that like religiously, and that must have been like summer '94, '95. And then I was kind of hooked. And then, I remember Christmas, it was Christmas '97. I asked for the Mollusk, and then Pure Guava, and the records just kept coming and coming and coming.
I
And
wonder
then I
what I.
dove into the Napster world,
Yeah.
and was downloading all like the B-sides back then, just obsessed.
Yeah.
My biggest obsession has been Ween.
I'm wondering what I would have, because I got into Ween a little later in the game. If you were, what year was the Mollusk? Was that like 90, 97 or something?
97.
Yeah.
I think it was
I
97.
wonder what little Colin would have been asking for Christmas. I think I wanted a fucking combination CD player alarm clock. I think that's what I was going
Oh,
for.
I got one of those.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
man.
got one of those.
And it was like, yeah, and I almost asked for a tape combo, I think, around that time. Anyways, not relative, but another question I always ask people who are on is what's your favorite live Ween experience, or what's your best live Ween story that you have?
I mean, getting to see them during the reunion tour was definitely the highlight. It was just great to see them both on stage. I remember being very, very sad when they broke up,
Yep.
because it always felt like it was like my little band, and I'm going to be able to. I was, a big fan of the band when I was a teenager, and I'm going to be 50 years old. I'm going to be 60 years old, and I'm still going to be able to see my favorite 7-year-olds on that stage
Yep.
rocking. So to hear that they broke up was just like this shot to the heart, and I couldn't believe it. And there's not like thousands of Ween fans around me that I could commiserate with. Um, and so I just found my Ween fans, and we got sad, and then we got happy when the reunion came around, and that was right. Then we started doing the podcast, and we kind of dove right back in. And so I'd say that the Capitol Theater shows, because we got to open, and just to have, it was just it was like a long year in the making.
Yeah.
Those were my favorite shows.
Did you get to meet the guys at all during that or anywhere else?
We did not get to meet them. We had front of house access. We had no back of house access.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they knew that we were doing it.
That would sound about right.
Their management approved it.
Yeah.
So at some point they did sign off on it, but I don't know if they gave a shit what was going on at the front of house bar during their show. I've met both of them separately over the years.
Yeah.
And surprisingly did not geek out too much. And that was very cool. They're both very sweet, kind of quiet human beings.
Right on. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know. It's one of those things. If I ever met them, I think I would just say hello, and that would probably be it.
Yeah.
Like what else are you gonna say? Hey, man.
See, I think the only person that would make me do that is like if I met like some New York Mets from like the '86 Mets. I'm like a big baseball guy.
Yeah.
And if I would definitely nerd out in a bad way if I met a Met.
If I felt I had something productive or useful to say to them, I might venture that. But if it was just going to be along the lines of like, especially if it was like at a show or in some drunk context, nothing that I would put forth would be of any discernible. You're the greatest. They'd be like, yeah. We are pretty great. I fucking love you. You used to love us. Like, where would that?
Yeah, I got to witness that. Yeah. We saw. Jeter did this Led Zeppelin rock show in Brooklyn, and it was a bunch of like School of Rock kids playing Zeppelin songs, and they had like Scotty in from Anthrax. They had one of Medeski, Martin, and Wood. I don't know which one it was, but one of them were there. Aaron sang a couple songs, and then after the show, we just went out smoking cigarettes, and there he was. So we just said, "Hey, great show," blah blah blah. And it was just a very nice conversation. He's like, yeah, I'm staying over at this hotel. He's very calm and cool. But then I saw like the 23-year-old version of me round the corner and be like, oh my God, it's Gene Ween. And ran up to him, and I just saw him like sink in. Yeah. So I got to see like what that would be like. And it wasn't cool.
Yeah.
It was kind of sad.
I kind of like prefer them as disconnected, old vintage rockers, you know, off doing
Yeah.
their own fucking thing. I don't think, and that's one thing I love about them. They've never real. I mean, they've been interested in fan service with respects that they put out great music, and that, I mean, Diener's up on the Ween Appreciation Society and stuff like that. So they're
He
not
was. He's
completely,
gone now.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're not completely detached. But I kind of like that they're fucking somewhere doing whatever the fuck they're doing, and we don't need to hear. But I always like that about my bands,
And
because
I think that's also why, because I mean, we've tried to get them on the podcast,
yeah,
and it's basically the vibe that I get is that it's like, no, man, like I don't want to let you know, but let the magic be magic.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, agreed.
no one needs to know that, you know, this song was about, you know, heroin. It's like, this
Yeah,
song is just about fucking, you know, this song is just called The Grove, and deal with it, you
yeah,
know?
indeed, yeah, cool, man. Okay, well, I think I'm gonna wrap this up, man. Thank you very much for coming on. Much
My pleasure,
appreciated.
dude.
And definitely, if you're watching this, if you're from my channel, check out some of his stuff on Ween Evan. And yeah. I also want to thank Eli Schwab for pointing me in your direction. And before we end this, how do you know Eli exactly?
Uh, just from like the scene of creators. He came on, he was a fan of the podcast,
Yep.
reached out to us. We sent him some pictures. He interviewed us for one of the Ween zines.
Yeah.
It's like there's just a great community of people that create like in the name of Ween,
Yeah.
from comic books to fucking pottery to shirts to stickers to pins to podcasts to, you
Yeah.
know, YouTube shows.
I think I have it. I used to have it right here. I went to the night 2 of the Nashville show. I don't have it here. I don't know where it went. This is not going well. But anyways, I came home from the second show. Well, not home. I came to the world's fucking dingiest Nashville hotel, which is this experience in and of it. That's a fucking podcast right there. But in any event, I woke up the next day wearing my shirt, and it was all backwards, and somebody had just stuck a pin on the back of my shirt. It's fucking cool. So
Yeah,
yeah, Ween
just
people are
makers
great.
and creators. That's
Yeah.
the best thing.
Yeah, and if you didn't check out the last episode with Eli, check that out, man. He's a fucking interesting guy, and it was the tip of the iceberg. I knew that he did the Ween zine there, but I really enjoyed talking to him, and I've really enjoyed talking to you, man. So thank you again for coming on, and yeah, check out his
Thanks,
stuff,
bud.
Ween Evan, and I'm gonna wrap it up here. Take care of yourselves. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel. Go subscribe to Osiris Media because there's tons of cool shit over there, and take care of yourself. Because let me tell you something, this video's